Are you ready?
This is From the Backline, a soccer podcast from Vancouver, covering the game at home and abroad. Here are your hosts, Mark Daly and Jorge Mendoza.
Hey everybody, welcome back to From the Backline, episode 297. It's Friday, July 31st, 2026. Mark and Jorge sitting here chilling out in the virtual studio on another gorgeous day in Upper Cascadia. Jorge, my friend, you're looking chill. You're giving off like this chill weekend vibe at the moment. You know, you look good, my friend.
Thank you, man. Yeah, I am finally starting to recuperate emotionally from what was one of the best World Cups that I remember as a whole, to be honest. It was a great experience. I think that we can get into it in a second, but like I thoroughly enjoyed this World Cup.
Me too.
It helped that I was able to go to my very first World Cup match here in Vancouver, and I went to see Canada and Qatar with my 7-year-old boy. It was an amazing experience. Say what you will about FIFA, which we will, but say what you will, but they can run a tight event. So that was a great experience. I was able to do that this summer, and that was amazing. But overall, Mark, what were your thoughts on the World Cup? It was good times.
Dude, it was amazing. And, I've been traveling a lot for work the last couple of months.
That you have, yeah.
So I was able to experience the World Cup in a little bit of a different way because I was actually about as far away as you can get from Vancouver for the first couple of group matches from Canada. I was in PEI for about a week or so, and it was interesting because I was at home and managed to see the first, the opening match and the first couple of group matches, and then even Canada's first. Correction, I wasn't. I was already on the road, but it was cool to be able to experience that that opening Canadian men's national team match on the road in a different part of the country that I'd never been before with other people at a conference. And it was very cool because it was unfortunate because the timing, being 4 hours ahead in the Maritimes compared to here on the West Coast, we were already sitting down for like the big gala dinner, and nobody was eating. Well, everybody was eating. Everybody had their phones on the table. Everybody was watching the match, and it was great. And it was very cool because, I was at home and then back and forth and all over the place until I was, got home. I guess around the round of 32 was when I sort of like settled into home to kind of watch the rest of it. Unfortunately, by that point, well, no, I actually got to see Canada, Morocco at home, but it was just cool to experience the community, the broader, support for Canada, not just in Vancouver, but, in a different part of the country as well. So I really enjoyed it. I agree with you, dude. I think this is one of the best World Cups that I've seen in my life. And it wasn't just because it was here, because when I was living in Europe, and I'm going to date myself here rather badly, I was
super old, so we all know that.
I'm super old, yeah. But when I was a young man, was for Euro 2000, and that was a year that it was hosted by Belgium and Holland jointly. And that was fun. It wasn't the greatest Euros ever, but it was fun because it was there. And I kind of use that as my baseline because when I was enjoying the World Cup here, it was, we had matches in Vancouver that just weren't Canada. I mean, how cool is it that Mo Salah was like partying on Granville Street and stuff like that? Those are really cool stories. It was just, there were so many good storylines and there were so many good matches, and it didn't really matter if it was in Mexico City or Monterrey or Atlanta or Toronto or Seattle or Vancouver. Everybody was super into it. And I think, and obviously I'm biased here, I think that Vancouver as a host city really rekindled a lot of the energy from the Olympic Games in 2010. I think it really revitalized something, and it was just cool. There was this great vibe in the city. I was downtown a couple of days ago, the big, the big soccer ball, display or whatever you want to call it on Science World. What did they call that ball? Was it the Trifonda or the something? trifecta or something like that. That's still up, so that's kind of cool.
Trionda.
Trion. That's it. I knew it was tree something. So but it was cool, So there's kind of some legacy stuff there, and all the stuff at the fan zone out of the PNE. It was just a great time, and I mean, there was some fantastic football. I mean, unfortunately, the final, even though it went the way that we all kind of wanted, you and I at least especially.
We're going to talk about that.
We're going to talk about that. But, I mean, that was a disappointing match. But, I mean, there were so many exceptional matches that we were witness to in the group stages, the round of 32, the 16s, the quarterfinals, etc. And who thought we would see 10 goals between France and England in the mean-nothing bronze medal game?
It's amazing. It's amazing. And you know what? Like, it's funny that you mentioned like the emotional connection to the tournament, because I think that that's what made the difference for me, right? Like at the end of the day, it's specifically about Mexico. Mexico didn't go further than what they usually do. They go to the round of 8, round of 16, and that's where the dreams die every single World Cup. So there was nothing different there, but all the lead up to that game against England, there was a different vibe about this team and the way in which they connected with the fans. So maybe it's with the proliferation of social media that I was getting so much content of people being so excited about the team and the celebrations on the streets in Mexico, that it made a different connection with me emotionally, right? Like in a way that I haven't had in a long time, like I was saying. So it almost. I mean, I've been living in Canada for like 22 years, like over half my life now, and so I've been living in Canada for longer than I lived in Mexico, but. So that connection that this Mexican team had with the fans, it almost made me feel reconnected to my country in ways that I hadn't experienced in a long time. So when they were finally eliminated by England in the round of 16, I was seriously bummed for a couple of days.
Mm-hmm.
Because of that, because it was so much fun, and even on a personal basis, like my family and I had have two little kids, and we would like make it a thing, right? Like it was today's game day, and they would put their like Mexican jerseys, and would sit on in front of the TV, and we would eat there and stuff like that. So even like having that experience, like as a family, knowing that was, I mean, we kept watching. Obviously, we watched most of the games and stuff, but like. Knowing that was gone, it was a serious bummer, and so the other thing that I kind of hate is the fact that we were all very skeptical about the 48 World Cup, the 48 team World Cup, right? And the quality of it. They were like, oh, Cape Verde, well, who are these people? They're gonna. And whether we like it or not, like it almost made it more exciting, and I hate to admit that.
Yeah, I know what you mean, dude. Because it's kind of funny. I'm just taking a look here at some of the different tables, and when you see some of these like Haiti and Curacao, for example, and Tunisia. Iran, New Zealand, Saudi Arabia, Iraq. I mean, in normal, I wouldn't say in normal, but in World Cups past, I mean, the chances that you would see countries like that qualify were not as frequent. You would always get a country of that sort of, I don't want to say stature or magnitude or whatever, like qualify from time to time, and deservedly so. But I mean, just like yourself and many other people, I was very skeptical of the new format, but it did work, and there were some really exciting moments that came out of it, and a lot of these countries really acquitted themselves rather well. I mean, I think that a lot of people were cheering for Iran and and Egypt. I think we're going to need to talk about that, because I think that they really got screwed by the officiating in that match against Argentina, but. It did work for some reason, but automatically before before the tournament's even really over, or shortly thereafter, they're talking about going to like a 64 like country World Cup. It's just like, let's not push it. This worked. This actually did work. There were some exciting moments. I have to admit that I was very happy with the fact that my cup ranneth over. If ranneth is an old English word, I mean, there was football on all the time, and it was just a treat to enjoy. I mean, there of course were games that weren't all that great, and that's just that's sort of par for the course. But I mean, there were also some I think there were more good stories that came out of it than others. But I'm just going to say one thing: did Mexico really lose to England, or did they just really lose to Jude Bellingham, who had some inspired moments? I mean, because those 2 goals that Jude scored in the space of about 2 or 3 minutes in the first half,
98 seconds.
It was insane. I mean, first of all, I mean, I think that Jude Bellingham really demonstrated why he plays for a club like Real Madrid, and why at the age of 23 or whatever he is, he's one of the best footballers on the face of the planet. I mean, just incredible skill. But the way that those 2 goals came about in that match with Mexico in such a short amount of time was just absolutely incredible. And that was just one of those moments. And that's what the World Cup, I always feel, is one of the things that the World Cup does really well, is the biggest players on the biggest stage in the biggest games have their moments. And I just felt that was Jude Bellingham having his moment. Unfortunately for you and Mexico fans, at the expense of L3. But at the end of the day, it's just, you can't begrudge or hate brilliance. And I mean, I know it's difficult for you to have this conversation, obviously, being a Mexico fan and opening wounds. Sorry about that, but I mean, it was incredible. And we'll just, right.
But I think it's a good point the way you make of this is why he plays for Real Madrid, right? And I think that at the end of the day, that's what the difference was between the two teams, right? Mexico played an almost perfect defensive tournament. Those 3 goals were the only ones that they conceded in the entire tournament, right? They made 3 mistakes defensively, and England capitalizing all of them, right? They got slapped in 98 seconds twice because of bad coverage in both goals. The only 2 bad coverage the mistakes that they made in that tournament, Jude Bellingham punished them for it. And then they were able to, Quiñones puts the 2-1 in just before halftime. We're like, okay, we got a game on our hands. Then the second half started. England gets a red card, and we're like, we really have a game of this. And immediately after, Alvarez, who has played in the Premier League, arguably one of the most experienced players in this team, misses a routine header to clear the ball. It bounces off Harry Kane. It wasn't even a pass. It bounced off Harry Kane, and it just happened to land on Gordon's path to go into getting a penalty kick. And obviously Harry Kane was not going to miss from that. So, but the difference is that England has the players that when given half a chance, they will score 3 goals.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's what it came down to, right? And like I said, it was sort of devastating, but I think that while it lasted, it was incredible. It was incredible. Let me ask you a question.
Can I ask you one first?
Yes.
Or I'm going to make a statement because it's related to England and Mexico. So after winning that match against Mexico, they go on to beat Norway. Again, Jude Bellingham has another massive game. And then I couldn't, being half English myself, obviously, and everybody who wasn't Argentinian was cheering for England in that semifinal match. But after watching the way that England played, especially after defeating Mexico, which I felt was the more difficult opponent than Argentina, because I mean, on paper, Argentina is the stronger, higher ranked side, defending at that point World Cup champions. The way that Thomas Tuchel attacked that game and the tactics and just the mentality that they went to, my reaction to that was, how dare you? How dare you play, use that mentality against Argentina, especially after, Gordon scored the first goal and they go up, and then it was just kind of like they put all 11 players behind the ball. It was the most painful match to watch. So anyways, I'll just put that out there for consideration.
So let's talk about Holland. We have to talk about the Netherlands.
Mm-hmm.
Out in the round of 32.
Mm-hmm. And
What
deservedly so.
Well, what happened?
Well, I mean, if we go back, they finished top of the group, right? In the group stage. And I'm just pulling up the stats here. So yeah, in Group F, it was Holland, Japan, Sweden, Tunisia. They had that amazing match where they beat Sweden. What was it? 5-1 or something like that.
Yeah.
I figured after that, here we go. They're just going to roll. This is one of the favorite teams. I'm thinking at that point, if they're not still in the conversation by the quarterfinals, something's wrong. But they drew a very difficult opponent in Morocco, who coming into the tournament were ranked 6th or 7th in the world. So Morocco, definitely not an easy opponent. But the fact that it went the way that it did, and as soon as it went to penalty, as soon as it went to extra time, like, we're done. We're absolutely done, because Holland has always had this unfortunate pattern of repeated incidents of not being able to deliver in big games. Like, how many World Cup finals has Holland been to and lost in the final? So it's just, like the repeat of like the heartache and the disappointment. But it was interesting because when that match was on, it was in the afternoon here, or sort of late afternoon. It's like 2-3 in the morning in Holland. So I'm getting constant messages from friends and family and my cousins. And by the time it went to like extra time, everybody's just like, well, I think we'll just go home, or it's time to go to bed. This is not going to end well. And then, of course, when it didn't end well, was all the, language that's, not polite enough for this, for this show. But yeah, just extremely disappointing.
I saw a couple of wild stats about the Netherlands, which is, since the 2010 final, they have not lost a World Cup match. Obviously, they haven't won it, but they have gone on to penalty kicks, which counts as a draw on the official record. Like, a loss in penalty kicks doesn't count as a loss, I guess. So since the final of 2010, Netherlands have not lost a match in regulation. So that's one.
If I do my math correctly, that's 4 World Cups since, right? 14, 18, 22, and then 26.
Well, but you guys didn't make it in one of those.
Oh, yeah, right. Well, no, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
There's been since 22. Yeah, that's, yeah.
But the other thing that I heard was that since 2014, the Netherlands have not won a penalty shootout. Which
is that karma?
Hey, man, I didn't say that. You did. You did.
Well, that'd be 2013 was the famous no error penal, batch.
After that game,
that
game, the Netherlands have not won a penalty shootout.
Yeah, it's interesting because watching their matches, like, I felt that even though that maybe Sweden isn't quite as maybe strong as they have been in the past, it's still Sweden. They're a European team. They're typically a good contender in tournaments like the Euros and the World Cup. But for Holland to light them up 5-1 or whatever it was, to me, I felt like a statement game. I felt, okay, this is a team that's really going to progress in the tournament. So to get to the point where they lose out in penalties to Morocco is nothing short of disappointment. And when that happened, like, people were calling for Ronald Koeman to go immediately, which I think is fair. Yeah, which he did. And I mean, where do you really go? Because to get knocked out in penalties, regardless if it's Morocco and they're a highly ranked team, it's a disappointment. They were expected to go a lot further.
Especially, I mean, without throwing shade to our own team here, if they get past Morocco, they get Canada in the next round.
Yes.
Then if you're the Netherlands, you are liking your chances to get at least to the quarterfinals.
Yes, exactly. And, from a personal point of view, that set up losing to Morocco on penalties actually worked out in my favor because the way, Holland having to play Canada in like a round of 16 match was something that I didn't relish having to pick a side in, because I would lose no matter who I would cheer for. So I'd be disappointed one after another. But, I think that segues nicely into the conversation about, Canada, because the score 3-0 is unflattering on paper. But do you not get the feeling that if Canada, who played extremely well, especially in the first half, and if they scored first, that match, I feel, has a completely different look to it. I think I think also, in fairness to Morocco, they do have a stronger squad, and they still probably win that match. But I think that the complexion, like the way that match evolves, is completely different. But I mean, full credit to our guys, because they played. I mean, Canada was 30-something coming into the World Cup. Morocco 6-7 in the world, or whatever their ranking was. So there was, there's that difference just right there. But I couldn't help but thinking when I was watching that match, here we are in 2026 watching Canada play Morocco in a round of 16 match at the World Cup. And I was thinking back to when we did version 1 of this show, and Canada was ranked in like the 120s or something.
Oh, God.
Like it was just, and granted, that's over a decade ago, but to see where this program has come from to where they are now. And of course,
it's such a short period of time too. I mean, like, this kind of progress and growth for many countries don't happen for like decades, right? But like in this
100%,
case, we've had it in a handful of years, literally.
Yeah. And that is a great point, Jorge. And I think that's why I get really encouraged and excited and thinking, well, look how far we came in a relatively short amount of time. Now we're playing a global stronghouse in the shape of Morocco. And I'm already looking forward to the next World Cup and the next qualifying cycle, because I mean, when we were doing this show the first time around, there were some dark days when it came to following the men's national team. Women's program, completely different. They've been a powerhouse for a long time. For exactly, and deservedly so. So it's great to see that the other half of the national program catch up. And I always think to myself, it's like, well, why not? Why can't we not be competitive in world football? Like, yes, there's obviously a big difference between countries like Canada and, some of the big South American teams and the European teams and things like that. And you expect that, but I don't honestly feel, and the bar has obviously been raised by Jesse Marsch and the squad, because I feel that round of 16 quarterfinals, why not? Let's go. Like, I am legitimately excited for the future and really, really excited about it. But I just want to back it up for a second, because going back to the round of 32, Netherlands were obviously a disappointment. Other disappointments notably include Germany. Another obvious disappointment coming out of that is, well, actually going over to the following round of 16 is Brazil, who came up a very difficult opponent in the face of Norway. But
you expect Brazil to get out of that clash.
Yes,
99 out of 100 times though. Being Norway and all, still, when you see Brazil-Norway, you're like, Brazil is going to take this.
Well, that's what you'd think, right? But again, I mean, this World Cup had, some interesting moments, and that was one, I think, that kind of proved that, reputation doesn't really count for anything, and it doesn't matter how many stars you have on your jersey, that you still have to go out there.
do they have stars? Like, if you think about Brazil, though, if we go back 20 years, when you talked about the best players in the world, a bunch of Brazilians were in the conversation. And that was
100%.
always the case, right?
Yep.
Like we had Ronaldo and Ronaldinho and Rivaldo and Cafu and Roberto Carlos and all these players who were some of the best players in their individual positions in the world. But when you look at now, if you look at the best players in each position, you will be hard pressed to find Brazilians if you made like what is the best starting 11 in the world right now, you will be hard pressed to find Brazilians in that team. And I think that's a new thing, right? And I think that it has to do a lot with their league and the way, like, they're the most powerful league in the continent. Like, in the continent, I mean, like South America and North America. But like that means that a lot of money has come in, so a lot of players from other countries have come in, and that has tapered the development of players as they used to have it.
Can I ask you a question? Is Brazil... Okay, I can ask you too. So is Brazil to CONMEBOL what Italy is to UEFA? Because I feel that it's almost a cut and paste scenario, because Serie A is not the Serie A of what it used to be. And I mean, Italy obviously didn't even qualify for the World Cup this time around. But I feel like this is a conversation. And I mean, Italy was always, historically one of these best teams. And if you were going to pick like your world best 11, there was guaranteed to be a couple of Italian players in there. I feel there's a lot of similarities between the two. I mean, obviously Brazil qualifies for the tournament and gets to, the round of 16, which obviously for them is a huge disappointment, but it's just really interesting. I think that there are some similarities between the two. I mean, they've got some work to do, and boy, yeah. And I say this as a Man United fan. I love Matías Cunha. I think he's a great player, but I don't really think that he's on that same sort of level, like with that list of players you just rattled off. And I think
Neymar is the last big name that became like Brazil. Like, you could argue Vinicius maybe, but like, realistically, like superstardom, like probably Neymar is the last bit, and he barely played this World Cup, right?
Yeah, 100. Yeah, that makes sense. I can go with that for sure.
We got to talk about Argentina, obviously.
Yes, we do.
And I think that it is a case of that needs to be studied almost, right? Like the falling from grace from this team at a world level. I mean, you know how I feel about Argentina, how I felt about Argentina for the longest time. So I've always been on the other camp, which now I'm welcoming everybody. Yes. You see?
Welcome,
you see
friends.
What I've been saying?
Come on in.
I've been saying this for decades, guys. But it's interesting because in 2022, I think it was almost unanimously agreed that everybody was happy to Argentina win, so Messi could have his World Cup and cement his place in arguably the best player ever.
Mm-hmm.
Fast forward 4 years, and most hated team that I have ever witnessed in my history. And I think that is because there's two driving forces for this sentiment to have gone to the toilet. One is obviously their own doing, and by their own doing I mean both the team, the players, but also the fans.
We
don't have, there are rude and disrespectful and like the bad losers and bad winners. They're bad losers and arguably worse winners. They are cheaters, and they're always looking for and now everybody is noticing. Everybody's noticing, right? So that's one thing.
I love how you just I love how you just went out there and called a spade, because I was at, I don't particularly like Argentina because they don't play the game the right way. But you just went out there and listed
No,
off the whole
they're,
dirty
they're,
list of,
the
shameful things.
it's just facts, dude.
Yeah.
And the other thing, the other side is what was clearly FIFA or Infantino or the referee. There was clearly help coming through to help them get past, and it was so clear to everybody. It was this, like, the stuff that happened against Egypt, like, Egypt getting that third goal disallowed. What happened against Switzerland with Embolo getting sent off in a way in which the VAR is not supposed to be used, and now the IFAB came out and they say, like, that's not what should have happened. Right. And the stuff that happened with, against England, Messi, getting that foul before sending out the cross that, and so many little decisions and big decisions. Like, I saw a crazy stat of, like, Argentina was the only team where a VAR decision didn't go against them. Right? Or I saw another one that, like, I think that Argentina got one yellow card every 22 fouls, which was like the highest rate, right? And I think that people, like, realized this and it felt icky and it was just not right. And what happened was that, everyone, the entire world except for Argentina was cheering for Spain to let football wins almost, right?
Yeah, that's an interesting way to put it.
But also, just the last thing that I want to say about this before I want to hear what you think. I think that the Messi legacy has been tarnished because I think that people have now realized what some of us have seen for years. And we had, if you go back to this feed of this podcast, we had a conversation about this a few episodes ago before the World Cup, where I made the argument that Messi has been bad for MLS. And I talked about all this. I talked about all the stuff that he gets away with, and the referees grant them, and the league protects them, and stuff that if there was any other player wouldn't fly because he's Messi. He gets on with it. Right, like, and we saw it in the first game. He should have been sent off with, like, a huge stomp against a player, and he didn't even get a foul. And so, but now it's, like, magnified to the 1,000th degree, and now everybody's finally seeing it, and I loving it, dude.
Yeah, well, it's interesting, right? Because I put this into our group chat a couple of days ago, but there was a tweet from Dale Johnson at BBC Sport, and apparently FIFA has officially opened investigations into the Argentinians and related to the protest banner about the Las Malvinas, the Falkland Islands. After, yep. So there's that. So again, this is FIFA basically investigating. So I don't know how many of us actually have faith in that, and I hate to be skeptical and cynical like that, but it's true. Anyways, according to Dale, so that they've opened an investigation into that and several other things. So first of all, it's using a sports event for demonstrations of a non-sporting nature, team misconduct and discrimination and racist abuse. Another one that they're looking into is order and security at matches. So a lot of the stuff, discriminatory chants and gestures and things like that. And then also specifically for the extracurricular activity at the final, they are looking into Nahuel Molina for 2 counts, one for, let's see, what does it say, for charges for assault, and then also against Paredes, and then, and then against Roberto Ayala, and then also unsporting behavior for Molina, Thiago Almada, and Gavi as well. So there's a whole laundry list of things that they're being looked into as for, and it's just, I don't understand, like, I don't understand a lot of the behavior and stuff like that, because there's no doubting the quality and the talents that these players have. like, why do they have to resort to things like that? I don't understand.
And then the cherry on top of the cake at the end of the day is that they lose fairly and squarely, even though Spain got 2 goals disallowed. One was the after they were 1 up, but the first one, the one from Nico Williams, who knows what they called. So even though they should have, it should have been way worse for them. Spain beat them in every aspect of the game. They are on the pitch and they turn around and they give their back to the winners, and you're like, dude, like, just be a
Show
decent,
a bit of class.
Like, show a little bit of class, right? Yeah. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what happens next and what it means long term for both Messi and just the Argentina. In fairness, I have seen some creators and some analysts from Argentina who are self-aware and who know, like, this was not right. And,
interesting.
The vast majority don't, but there's some of them. Like, I don't want to, like, generalize. Like, the vast majority, like, are diluted, but some of them have said, like, yeah, there was something not right over here. So at the end of the day, it's funny that, because, like I said, I have a 7-year-old. It's his first, like, World Cup, really. And every match that we will watch, he would say, "Who are we cheering, Dad?" And so we would pick one, right? And obviously we had different reasons and so like that. One of the early teams that stuck in his mind was Brazil, because, like, he saw them score a goal and they went and did, like, a little dance or whatever. So,
like Cunha and the Surfer.
Yeah, exactly, right. So
we got used to that at United this year, so that's a good move.
Just he was starting to understand how football support sometimes works and sometimes it's confusing for him, because, for example, when he came to, obviously he was all out with Canada, he was all out with Mexico, but then after it's starting to get a little complicated, because obviously England beat Mexico and then Norway beat Brazil, so he came to England against Norway. So he's like, well, Norway defeated Brazil, so I don't like them, and England defeated Mexico, so I don't like them. So who are we supposed to cheer for? And I was like, we're cheering for Norway, right? No, we're cheering for England because England has a better shot against Argentina next. And then, so we went for after not cheering for England, we went to cheering for England. And then, on the other hand, it was France and Spain. And he said, who are we cheering for? I said, France, because France has a better chance at the time, obviously, of beating Argentina. So, like, and he's like, all right. And then it was Argentina against England. So, again, we went with England and they lost against, and then Spain beat France. So then he was like, so now we're cheering against Spain. We were cheering for Spain again. Yeah, now we're cheering for Spain now. But we didn't cheer against France. I was like, well, but now we, like, that things change. They're fluid, man. So he was a little confused as to why we were, like, switching back and forth from team to team. But he's getting it. He's getting it.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's it's one of those things, like the World Cup. Like, I've always enjoyed it, just not only for the football, but the fact that it does give, like, an opportunity for family and friends and people to come together and to enjoy something, bigger than them, right? And that's always been the fun of it. But talking about things that are becoming bigger than them, so this tournament has barely been over for days, literally, right? 2 weeks more or less. But already, they're talking about, like, expanding up to 64 teams. And then yesterday, there was this big announcement from UEFA saying that, they're completely against Infantino and this idea to commercialize and sell, was it like a 20% stake in the ownership of the World Cup? And basically starting as of right now, that none of the UEFA nations are going to take part in any of the, like, FIFA sanctioned events moving forwards. There's some sort of rumbling that the 41 members of CONCACAF CONCACAF had some secret behind the doors meeting, so maybe there is something growing here, but it just, I don't know. It's just like it's just. The first thing that sort of jumps to mind is like read the room. Like why are you like trying to push ahead with something? It's just like, yes, it was a big thing to go to like a 48 team World Cup, but like now why all of a sudden are you pushing ahead with to expand it up to 64 teams? Like, I don't know. I mean, the jury is still out, right? Like, will 48 teams work? Yes, it worked this time, but will it work in 4 years? Who knows? You have to give this thing a bit of time to find a bit of equilibrium, find out if it works or not before pushing ahead. So I just found it was very interesting that UEFA came out with this, this statement, like this unanimous statement that we're not going to participate in any FIFA events if this goes ahead. I mean, they went with the nuclear option as their first response to it, rather than let's talk about this. It's a very strong statement, right? Because how many if you have a World Cup, one of the automatic assumptions is that depending how everything works out, that there's probably going to be a European nation, if not in the final, at least in the semis.
Well,
it's a given, right?
3 out of 4 in the last 4, right?
Exactly. And then it's a pretty good call that one of the other finalists is probably going to be a CONMEBOL country, right? So that's historically how it's always been. So the fact that the UEFA nations came out with this really strong statement sort of right away was actually, to me, was quite shocking, to be honest.
So a couple of points there. I think that this plan cannot benefit the fan. That's for sure. Football, I don't know. But the fan, us, there's nothing good that can come out of that. Because if you look at the situation for the fans now, how difficult has been to consume football, right? Not only to go to the stadiums in the World Cup, which I saw that the prices compared to Qatar doubled in price, and they're 10 times as more expensive than in Russia in 2018. So that has become harder and harder for fans to enjoy at a World Cup match live. But it also has become equally hard to enjoy them from home. You need to buy this, so many things and pay TV and that is done now where FIFA is quote unquote a non-for-profit organization.
Great point.
And that has been the journey in which we are. Now imagine if there is an actual arm that their job is to squeeze as much money as they possibly can. So that cannot be a good thing. Number one. Number two, kudos to UEFA for standing strong from the get-go, right? Now, I would like to see what's going to happen with the rest of the confederations, right? Because it is easy. I mean, it is easier for UEFA to say this because they have 55 nations that are affiliated with UEFA, which majority of them are developed countries, developed rich countries, right? For the rest of the world, I'm looking at CONCACAF, obviously outside of Mexico, Canada, and the U.S. If you look at Panama and Honduras and El Salvador, and Central America, South America, same thing. Africa, when they're being dangled, it's hey, if you sign this, you're gonna get $20 million. How they're not in the same position as Europe to say no, right? So I'm very interested to see what happens, who joins Europe, who joins FIFA, and what that would mean for the tournaments as a whole. I don't know how it will work. If they went ahead and FIFA went ahead and tried to do a World Cup and UEFA says we're not going to go in, does that mean that there will be no European countries, or would they have a fall German team that is not the best teams in the best players in the world, what will happen with the leagues? Like, there's so many unanswered questions I was chatting with my wife yesterday about it, and I was like, I don't know what happened with the leagues. I don't know what will happen with the players. Like, could the players go to the World Cup? Probably not. Like, so I really hope this does not come to fruition, because, like I said, I don't think that it will benefit us as fans. But like, good, like, kudos to UEFA, who is maybe setting the example that, like, you can stand up against FIFA.
Yeah, and I'm looking at it right now because I got the statement open here, and it says that this is the press release. It's a statement on behalf of UEFA and its 55 national associations. Subtitle is UEFA and its national associations will not participate in FIFA competition. So I'll just read a portion of it. It says UEFA and its 55 member associations stand as one. We unanimously and unequivocally reject FIFA's proposal to transfer ownership interest in the World Cup and other FIFA competitions to private investors. The World Cup cannot be treated as an investment product. It is one of football's greatest sporting legacies. It has been built over generations by players, national teams, and supporters across every continent. No part of it should ever be surrendered to private investors. The World Cup is not for sale. It is both irresponsible and indefensible that a proposal of such significance for football was conceived in secret and brought to the brink of approval without any meaningful consultation with those entrusted with the stewarding of the game. This is not merely a profound failure of leadership, but an abdication of FIFA's duty as the custodian of world football. National associations around the world are now presented with an ultimatum. Accept the irreversible capture of football's greatest competitions or bear the consequences. This is not a democratic decision, but a governance by intimidation, an act of coercion unworthy of an institution entrusted with the stewardship of the global game. But our opposition goes far beyond process. The moment external investors acquire ownership interest in FIFA competitions, football changes forever. Commercial return becomes a permanent obligation. Investor expectations become a daily pressure. From that moment onwards, every decision on the international calendar, every decision on competition formats, and every decision shaping the future of football is no longer driven by what serves the game, but what serves or what best serves shareholders. Pardon me. So just skipping ahead, it says, as a result of today's discussion, no UEFA national teams will participate in any FIFA competition so long as these proposals remain alive, unless that proposal has been abandoned in its entirety and binding assurances have been given that FIFA will never again open its governance or competitions to private ownership. Nobody should be in any doubt. UEFA and its national associations will oppose these plans with absolute determination. So the way that I see this, and, we should be very clear here. The World Cup is not just confined to 5 or 6, 4 weeks out of, once every 4 years. The World Cup starts with qualifying, and that is it's years of qualifying before the finals even start. So, we're ramping up for the next, the next big one on the calendar would be like the European Championships in 2 years. So we'll see all that qualifying going on, but it'll be interesting because there's a lot of runway between now and when the next World Cup starts, with qualifying in 2 years. So, I mean, basically, when you look at that statement, they're saying that none of the UEFA teams are going to participate in any FIFA competitions. So I assume this is like U23s, U20s, whatever it might be, men, women, whatever. They're just not going to go. And you have to think that this is not just something that was put out by like their comms department. You have to think that some very, very experienced and highly paid lawyers have looked over this before this statement even went to, I would assume, the membership of UEFA for, discussion and approval before this went out as a press release. So this is a major statement. And I agree with you. Like, it's a bit of a it's tricky, right? Because you have, like you say, all these developed countries that sure nobody would, turn away at like, $20 million or whatever it might be, or any other prize money. But for these smaller countries, especially less developed, nations, that is such a windfall, and what they can do with that, it just, I don't know, it just feels very, what's the word? It just has a very unpleasant feel about it. It just it just doesn't seem right to me. And I really hope that whatever happens, that they don't. That it never happens, because is very much in that that UEFA statement that once portions or whatever that percentage of control of the World Cup is sold off to, or other competitions, FIFA competitions, if they're sold off to private investors, they're like then the discussion becomes about like ROI and getting their yeah, exactly, and that's not what it's all about. So good on UEFA, and I don't know what else to say. They've already said it's just no bueno. Anyways, dude, we're like 15 minutes into this. This is a predominantly a Whitecaps podcast. We have things to talk about. They lost 4-3 last week in that very weird and chaotic game against FC Cincinnati.
It was late.
Yeah, and all the other things around it. And then Sebastian Berhalter is gone. And, it's so ironic to a degree, because I was kind of thankful for a lot of the time of the World Cup that Berhalter didn't get a lot of meaningful minutes. He came off of the bench most of the time, and I'm just like, good, he didn't get a chance to showcase himself, because I'm wearing my Whitecap supporters hat now, and I don't want to see him really presenting himself well in the World Cup. So obviously other teams, other clubs find out how good of a player he is, and he ends up being swept up. And then, days later, he's off to Middlesbrough in England. I mean, first of all, good for Sebastian. I mean, it is a step forward in his career, but it leaves a big gap in the side. And I mean, what a story that player actually is. I mean, they literally got him for a handful of dollars. What was it, like 50 grand or something?
Yeah.
Like that, was back in 2022. And I mean, the player that Sebastian Berhalter flourished into in his time with the Whitecaps, I mean, it's a great story, but it also leaves a very big hole in the Whitecaps squad. And, Axel is saying all the right things, that the search has already begun. But, it's one thing, it's not plug and play when it comes to a player like that. And I mean, Axel's got a great track record in what he's done with the Whitecaps, but he's got some work to do to replace him. Let's put it that way.
Well, I'm concerned. Because we have been talking about, since we brought the podcast back at the beginning of the season, we have been talking about how Sebastian Berhalter is arguably the best player in this, or was the best player in this team, and how it has the most impactful for this team. So plugging that hole, especially after like Vite left, they had they argued like Vite Kubas Berhalter was arguably the best midfielder in the league. So now those 2 out of 3 are gone. Like you said, getting someone with that, a player that encapsulates all the positives that Sebastian Berhalter is, both in the industry, in the ball distribution, and his set piece taking, is not going to be easy. We are also spoken about how this team seems to get arguably better when they face some challenges. This is a big challenge in my book.
Mm-hmm.
Someone made this argument to me when I was at work the other day, and let me be devil's advocate for a second here.
Okay.
Like you say, Mark, so Berhalter left for about like 2 million or so. That's sort of like the reports.
Yeah, that's the reports. Yep, 2 million.
Which, I mean, 2 million, it kind of makes sense because of, he has 6 months left in his contract, and then he could just technically walk away, right? So getting 2 million instead of nothing, that's way better, right? Having said that, we have seen players that are not as good as Sebastian Berhalter, and they're not in the kind of momentum and coming out of a World Cup, that have gone for way more, right? Like Ricardo Pepi, like they have gone for like 10, like double-digit numbers. Like you said, the Whitecaps took a chance and basically saved his career, almost, like coming out of Austin. Is there an argument that you made that he could have signed a new contract and tried to like elevate that number as he was going out? Was he banking on the fact that he would go for cheap and that would open more opportunities for him? Could he not like thrown a bone to the club? You know what Gilberto Mora did, 17-year-old Mexican sensation that now he's been looked at by Paris Saint-Germain and Real Madrid. He signed a new contract with Tijuana before the World Cup. So I don't know. I was like, you know what? I hadn't thought about that, but maybe.
Yeah, that's an interesting thought, right? It's just, was it a case of like a pretty good move, like right now, and let's go for it, rather than trying to build it up and increase that value and open more doors? I mean, it really kind of raises the question: was Middlesbrough his only option? And I mean, it seems like a pretty good option for him to go to, but I mean, it's not a Premier League team, it's not Liga, it's not Bundesliga. You know, it's I mean, he's not moving to the top flight. I mean, is it arguably a step up from MLS? Yeah, probably a little bit. I think that's obviously a fair argument to make, but where could he take it, you know, had he stayed and decided to do, you know, like to your point, try and build upon, you know, where he's at right now and go further? I mean, because there is, no matter which way you try to look at it, his time at the Vancouver Whitecaps is a little bit kind of unfinished, right? Because they didn't win MLS Cup. They didn't, of course, get to the end and win the biggest continental trophy available either. So, I mean, and there were some great moments, right, in his time with the Vancouver Whitecaps, but could have gone further, right? And so I don't know. It's kind of one of those 6 of one, half dozen of the other, but maybe he sees this move, you know, because he's 25 now, right? So it's not like he's super old, but he's not super young either. I mean, he's kind of coming into that sort of like mid-career stage. So maybe he feels that if he has a couple of good years at Middlesbrough, maybe that might get him a bigger move somewhere else. Who knows? I mean, only Sebastian Berhalter really knows what his goals are for his career, but you know, you can't really begrudge him for making the move, but again, it's just like, how do you replace a player that had so much impact for the Whitecaps? I mean, maybe Axel knocks it out of the park. Maybe he finds a player of equal quality to Sebastian Berhalter that can drop into the squad and make an impact right away. I mean, we should mention, of course, that one bit of news, I mean, not among Whitecaps fans is, but maybe broader news, just with all the noise around the World Cup and the aftermath, is Ryan Gold is back. And that is a huge win for the Whitecaps, obviously, because this is a guy that's been out of the 11 for like a year, whatever it is. I mean, it's been a very, very long time, and obviously he had an impact in the first game back against Cincinnati. Then there's that goalless draw last weekend against Minnesota. Tomorrow there's the match at LAFC, and then there's Leagues Cup group stage matches for the next week or so before they have a Cascadia Derby match against the Sounders on August 16th. So 2 weeks from, I guess, tomorrow, right? On the weekend. Don't have the calendar in front of me. So it's a bit of an interesting time in the season, because, you know, also we've got we're going to move into some more meaningful opponents in the Canadian Championship and the Voyageurs Cup. So
the Leagues Cup is coming up this week.
Yeah, exactly, because they're going to play
Atlante.
And then Juarez, and then Tigres, which is almost
Why
like
do we always play Tigres? Having said that, Tigres is on the middle of turmoil because Guignac is gone. Correa, who came from Atletico Madrid, is gone down to River Plate.
Okay.
Their coach just quit. So it's a bit of a tournament. So if there's a time to maybe get over the Tigres hump, maybe this is now.
Yeah, wouldn't that be a huge mental win for the Vancouver Whitecaps if they could actually like beat Tigres? Because obviously they've been that team at sort of that a level that the Whitecaps would, you know, are aspiring to when it comes to sort of like continental like opponents. I mean, obviously we see a lot of American teams because MLS being, you know, a league that's in 2 countries, but I mean, obviously, like, the benchmark for MLS teams is being able to compete with teams from Liga MX consistently. Exactly. If you can go and compete against and beat teams like Tigres and others, then that's a really good benchmark, I think, of where the quality of clubs in MLS is evolving to. So it's going to be an interesting 2 weeks. I mean, there's going to be a bunch of matches coming up in rapid succession here before the Cascadia Derby match against the Sounders on the 16th. Plus, the transfer window is open until earlier mid-September before that closes. So we're going to see whether or not the Whitecaps have any moves and see if Axel can deliver. And I guess he figures that he can. But I mean, for me, if you go back and take a look at the tables, and it seems like a very long time since we have, right? That it's very strange because we went off and we got off to this great start in MLS. I mean, Vancouver Whitecaps still top of the Western Conference by virtue of goal difference, 33 points. Yep. And actually, there's 3 clubs on 33 points: is Vancouver LFC and San Jose. So Whitecaps are still, by virtue of goal difference, at the top of the table. And then there's a bit of daylight between San Jose and third to Salt Lake. RSL is in fourth with 26, and the Houston Dynamo. And those are going to be some teams that the Whitecaps are going to see in a while as well. So it's going to be a very interesting time of year. And then again, I think for me, obviously, some of the things I'm looking at is obviously the Whitecaps are winless since the return from the World Cup break. 4-3 loss at Cincinnati 2 weeks ago, drawing 0-0 in Minnesota last weekend. So obviously, they've stumbled a little bit to find their form again, and it's been a protracted, extended break, but that's for everyone. It's not just for the Vancouver Whitecaps. So that's one thing I'm looking at. Number 2 is any potential new signings, especially how do we address the big gap left by Sebastian Berhalter leaving.
And then they did bring Poku.
Yes, yep, so, that's right. That is one signing.
But again, Poku, even if we treat Gold as a new player coming in or returning into the. Again, know the profile that Berhalter was bringing into it, right? It may be a case of other players stepping up and taking that step, which would be amazing.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we'll see. It will be an interesting month, the busy month with 3 different competitions happening, and
exactly. And I think that's a nice segue to the third thing I'm looking for is what impact can Ryan Gold have on this team after being out of the lineup for such a long time with that injury he had. I mean, 2 goals in his first match back was great. So it's just something that we hope will continue from Ryan Gold, and hopefully the Whitecaps will get back to winning ways before too long. Anyways,
all right,
cool. Anything else, or do you think we've actually covered it now?
I think that went. I'm good.
Cool. All right. We'll wrap it up there. Everybody, thanks for joining us today. Enjoy the match this weekend against LAFC, and enjoy all the matches coming up. And we'll be back again very, very soon to talk about all of that and more. Until then, take care of yourselves, and we'll talk to you again soon. Bye for now.